Do you ever feel like you want to play, you appreciate the value of play, but you just don't think you have time to play? Your calendar is too full that you can't make time for yourself. That's what we're going to be talking about on this episode.
Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are your hosts, Erik, Orton.
And I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about personal growth and sailing. In 2014, we moved aboard a fixer-upper sailboat and bootstrapped a year sailing with our 5 kids, and it changed our lives forever.
We tell the whole story in our memoir, our book, 7 at Sea. On this podcast, we want to help you go from fear to freedom, one adventure at a time. Okay, so something fun that's happened recently is that our daughter Lily has discovered the calendar. And it's not like she never knew what a calendar was, but she has discovered the calendar in her phone. And this has been kind of fun and a little bit frustrating. So why don't you tell about your moment with Lily's calendar last week?
Okay, yeah. So Emily was going out for the evening, and I was working, and she said, I was going to be home with Lily for the evening, and she said, "Oh, Lily, if it works out, Lily would really love to go to this art stroll thing." I was like, "Okay." And we're talking. Lily and I are talking over dinner, and she said that she wants to go on this art stroll. I know nothing about it. Emily's gone, and I was like, "Well, Lily goes along with us so much. I'm just, if she wants to do this thing, I'll take her." So I look up the address and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's across town. I will spare you the details, but it's this whole quest. Lily and I get in the car, we drive across town. We have a hard time finding it. It's a whole battle to we go to the wrong place twice. And one of the reasons it's so hard to find it is because it's just it turned out to be such a rinky dink event. It was an art stroll that it had 6 people that put up fold up tables, and some of them had one painting, and they weren't even there. It was just their table and their painting. And maybe because we got there late. And there was one cool person that I talked to and really enjoyed her art, but they had a jazz trio playing acoustic music right next to a food truck with a generator that was rumbling. And so you couldn't hear that. I was like, oh, this whole little event is a disaster. And I kind of left in a huff. What a waste of an evening. And I get home and I'm talking with Emily and tell her what it is. And I was like, this seemed really important to Lily. And turns out that it was just something random that Emily had seen in some community flyer weeks or months before and just put on the calendar in case it was interesting. And Lily saw it and was like, oh, there's an art stroll. It's on the calendar. We're going. And I realized that it wasn't really that significant to her. Emily had no idea what it was or where it was, and I was just going along for the ride. But what we've learned is that if it's on the calendar, Lily expects it to happen. I think that's the new thing.
Yeah, I love that she can open up her app and she sees it on the calendar and she's like, okay, it's on the calendar, so this is what we're going to do. So after Erik told me about their experience, I went in and deleted all of the other community events I had put in there just for our information in case we felt like we wanted to do that on a Friday night. And because I did not want to get roped into another one of these, hey, it's on the calendar, so we have to do it. But at the same time, I really admired Lily's, her dedication to that. She's like, it's on the calendar, we got to do it. And we have seen that work in positive ways in our family where we put ourselves on the calendar first. And then that space is protected instead of leaving it open and saying, hey, I have some free time. And of course, inevitably somebody else says, will you be willing to do this for me? Can you help out with that? Are you available for something? Hey, I've got a thing going on. And suddenly you have your whole month jam-packed, and it isn't packed with things that you intentionally chose because they match your value system or your goals or even the people that matter most to you. It could just be somebody asked you and you didn't have the space assigned to anything else yet, so you said yes. And so it was a good reminder to us of how powerful putting something on the calendar can be, and that we want to be really careful about what goes on the calendar and what is not going to be on the calendar. But I love it. It's an awesome thing that Lily has, grown into. And I really appreciated the reminder. And that leads me into actually the second story about calendaring or making space, making time and space for yourself. Our son, he's working two jobs and he also does some volunteer work. And where he volunteers, somebody else asked him to cover a shift. And it was, obviously it was a time that he wasn't already assigned. And he felt a sense of obligation, but also a sense of resentment. Like just the fact that the person asked and it's somebody that, he's friends with, but he had also seen this blank space on his calendar. And he was really looking forward to having that time to himself. And he was feeling really conflicted about, oh, this person needs help. But I also need time to do things. And
or to not do
or
things.
to not do things I need time for myself sometimes. And I like what you said, Eric. Maybe you could say it again. I just told Eli, like, look, if you want to do it, you definitely can do it. But if you're feeling like stretched thin, or this starts to make you feel resentful, or imagine it this way. If this time you're planning to spend by yourself doing things that you want to do, it was time that you had actually scheduled to be with another person, then would you consider taking over this shift? Or would you say, oh, I already have plans. I've already committed to somebody. And so I'm not available at that time. He said, I would say I already had plans, that I'd already committed that time. And I said, what if you treat yourself with that same amount of respect?
What if you treated yourself like you were a person and you had made a plan with yourself and you're going to keep your commitment to yourself to do the other thing, even if that other thing is, I'm just going to relax. I'm going to read a book. I love right now he's reading Les Miserables, which is like 1,200 pages long. And I hear him say often, oh, I just wish I had more time to read. And so when he gets a blank spot in his calendar or he plans time to read, he actually gets to read this book. And he's like 1,100 pages through a 1,200 page book. And so he's been making it happen. And yeah, I think so often we think that just because we can do something, if somebody asks us, it means that we should do something. And I think what we told him is, we said, first of all, acknowledge that it's actually you want to do it. Like, I wished I could. I wished I could be in two places at once. I wished I could help you out. Unfortunately, I already have other plans. And those plans can be, we don't have to say, it doesn't have to be like a conflict with another commitment with another person in another place at another time. It could just be that in your mind, you intended to do something else. That's enough of a plan. And we can respect that and honor that in ourselves. And when other people want to do that, even if we say, hey, we asked them to do something and then we drive past their house and they're sitting on their front porch reading a book, we can say, I thought you had other plans. Yeah, my plan was to read my book.
Yeah, I'm so busy. I'm moving all the time. I'm doing for other people. I'm heavily involved. And this is a little space because I have to rejuvenate and reboot.
Yeah. So today we wanted to share 3 stories with you. And I actually have a half story at the end that I want to share. But we talked about Lily discovering the calendar and how she's kind of become an enforcer of the calendar. And then Eli kind of having this moment where we're coaching him as a young man on how to protect his time and honor his commitments to himself, even though somebody else might be asking him to help out. And then the third is, you want to talk about a play date that we had recently.
Yeah. I also am just thinking, like, how would my life be different if I had learned that lesson that we're teaching Eli, but when I was his age? So the third one is still about me not learning that lesson very well. We actually had on the calendar for Eric and I to go to Bear Lake. We've lived in the Salt Lake Valley for a couple of years now, and I've been to Bear Lake before, but Eric has never been there. And so we were going to take if you've been here before, we call it a scouting trip. We want to go check it out, see it, not have too big of a plan with it. But we were trailing a small sailboat.
And it was going to be a day trip. It wasn't like we're going to go for a weekend. It was just like, it's like 2 hours away, drive up, spend some time, drive back.
Yeah. low commitment level.
Mm-hmm.
And as this was approaching, I was feeling more and more stressed about it because I saw my calendar full of obligations and responsibilities, commitments, things that I needed to do, either in our business or for my volunteer things or for my family. And I just thought, there isn't time for this. Like, I would be okay if this got canceled. And I thought I would feel greater sense of relief because then I would have more time to do these other things. But it was on the calendar.
So I became the enforcer, and I was like, at least I'm going to Bear Lake.
Yeah, are we going?
You're
Are
you're
we
invited.
going? And I'm like, okay. And we went. And I won't say that everything went super smoothly.
Things went badly.
We dropped something on the freeway, a piece of our mast, and we drove around and around I-15 looking for it to no avail.
We found half of it.
Yeah, half. And then we decided, let's just go anyway, because we're just trying to get there and we want to see it and just be there.
So it took us about 4 hours to get there, even though it was supposed to take 2.
But honestly, once we lost the piece of the mast, I had a completely new focus. I was supposed to be just like eyes focused on the side of I-15, looking for this metal piece. And it pulled me out of all my other concerns so much. Like, this was the primary concern right now, that I was able to kind of break that lock of overwhelm and concern and just like free up my mind a little bit. And even at that point, I think I was telling you, I'm so glad we came. I'm so glad we did this. This has been so good for me. Even.
Yeah, I'm stressing out as we hunt for this boat piece that's somewhere on the side of the freeway, and I'm not having a good day because we had to make a trip back home because I forgot some stuff, some of the boat parts, and then we lost the boat parts. So we're now like doubling back for the 3rd time. And you're like, this is so great. This is so therapeutic. And I was like, this is not therapeutic for me.
But hopefully by the time we actually got there, we got to see the overlook view, and then we got up close and we sat right next to it. And then Erik.
You mean of the lake?
Of the lake, yeah. And it was blue and beautiful, and nobody else was there because it was a Monday and school's back in session. And then we had like a peanut butter jelly sandwich picnic, and we went over closer to the water to put our feet in. And then you wanted to actually swim out to the buoys, and I was like, okay, I will too. And we got in, and I don't even know how far we swam. Not very far.
It's like 100 yards.
Yeah. But it was just so good to play. And by then, I think it was therapeutic for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Once we got there, once we started the drive up I don't even know what the name of the valley is, but when you kind of head up towards Logan.
Cache Valley.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, Utah people. My geography is not even rusty. It's like,
I remember seeing it on a sign. That might have been one of the valleys.
Yeah, we were heading east up into the mountains. And once we were off of the freeway, it was just beautiful and lovely. And at that point, it got therapeutic for me.
And then getting in the water and going for a swim, and the marina there was beautiful. Like, it was all just so nice. And we both felt like this was so good. And like the tight squeeze on my brain was completely released. And I felt like I'm going to be able to get done everything that I need to get done. I'm going to be able to hold it a little more lightly, not take myself so seriously. I feel so much better about this week coming up because we took this time to play. And so then you had a great idea about the calendar.
Oh yeah. So we just said, I'm so glad. We're so glad we did this. It's so close. It's a shame that we've waited this long to come here. It's been 2 years, 2.5 years almost. And we just thought, Utah is an amazing state. There's so much that we love about being here. And we decided we need to get out and do more of this. And so we committed. We said, before we drive away and head back home, where we're going to get sucked right back into our same groove, which is not bad, but before we get locked in, let's put a couple more of these on the calendar. And so we pulled open our phones, I guess is what we had with us.
Yeah, we're using those digital calendars.
And a place that I've always wanted to visit that I haven't visited yet is Lake Powell, which is the opposite end of Utah. So Bear Lake is the northern end, and Lake Powell is the southern border of Utah. And so many people that have taken sailing have talked to me about it. So I decided we want to go there. So we put, I thought you wanted to go for a couple of days. I was like, oh, let's block out a few days to go to Lake Powell.
Maybe that's how long it takes. I don't know.
Anyway, so we put that on the calendar. And then I said, I'd love to spend more time in Moab/Indian Creek. It's a cool rock climbing spot that I've been to one time. And
I've never been.
Emily hasn't seen it, and I'd love to show her. And so we put these 2 little excursions, Moab and Indian Creek and Lake Powell, on the calendar between now and the end of the year. And now the challenge that we've given ourselves, Emily, is can we stick to it? Can we not cave?
If it's on the calendar, Lily's going to see it.
And she will hold
She's going to say, hey, it says Moab.
It says Moab. It says Powell, Lake Powell.
Yeah. So it could, that's just reiterating how important it is to get yourself on the calendar.
Okay. So I want to tell one last story about Lily from this morning. So you were out and I was sitting with her on the couch and we're looking out the window waiting for the bus to come. And she's starting up swim team next week. She's in a play. She's always doing all kinds of stuff. And so I just said, what do you got going on today? And she says, let me see. And she pulls out her phone and she looks at her calendar and she says, I have Annie NYC chorus rehearsal may end early. I was like, oh. So I was like, do you know what NYC stands for? And she says, that's chorus rehearsal. Anyway, I said, that's New York City, which was embarrassing that she didn't know that. But anyway, she doesn't always know what it is and it doesn't matter, but she's like, that's what I'm doing because it's on the calendar. And so for better or for worse, if you put yourself on the calendar and then you stick to it, you just might do the things that you actually want to do.
And if you feel like I want to invite you, if anything we've said here today reminded you that, yeah, I would like to play and maybe play would be good for me. And maybe I do need to set aside a little time for myself or to be with the people that I love the most and not always say yes just because there's an empty space on my calendar. We want to invite you to do that. Go ahead and do that. And if you're feeling like, you know what would be really fun is to get my favorite person and take 5 days or 7 days and go out sailing with Erik, well, we'd love to invite you to go ahead and sign up for that too. There's always a link in the show notes, but it is such a good time, and that time is well spent, and the benefit continues to unfold to you long after the trip is over. So I want to invite you, if that's something you've been considering, go ahead and look into it. It's a good time.
And before we wrap up, I just want to talk about the idea of play in general. Whether you play with us on a sailing trip or play some other way, there's always this pushback that you get, which is like, oh, I can't afford to play. I don't have the time or the money, or, I've got the kids, or I've got my sick parents or whatever. There's always a reason to not do it. And here's the reason to do it, is because when you do, you're going to be a better version of yourself, and you're going to show up better in all of those ways. You're going to show up better for your spouse. You're going to show up better for your kids. You're going to show up better for anybody that you are helping or taking care of. You're going to show up better for your job if you work in or outside the home. It's taking one step back to slingshot 2 steps forward, as our friend Whitney Johnson says. And so it might feel like you can't afford it time-wise or money-wise or whatever, but when you do, it opens up all kinds of possibilities and resources and energy that you didn't realize you were depleted of. And it lets you show up better in all those ways. And you actually give more and better for the people that you care about because you took a little time to play. That's my 2 cents worth.
Well, all I have to say is, what could go right?
Hey guys, it's Erik. Now that we have rounded the corner into fall, I do want to tell you about some exciting new trips coming up. The long-awaited announcements for our summer Mediterranean trips. I'm going to share those with you. So let me start at the top. At the moment of this recording, I'll start with the top of the year. January 27th through February 1st, currently have one spot. It's a female spot in a shared cabin, bunk bed cabin, for the Virgin Islands, January 27th through February 1st. The next trip that we have is March 10th through the 15th, 2025, also to the Virgin Islands. Then we're going to be in the Bahamas, March 31st through April 5th. After that, we're going to jump ahead to the summertime, and we're going to be in Italy, June 7th through the 14th. We'll be in Greece, July 19th through the 26th, and we'll be in Croatia, August 2nd through the 9th. So I'm just going to repeat those real quick. January 27th through the 1st, I got one spot for a lady on our Virgin Islands trip. Then we're going to be back in the Virgin Islands in March 10th through the 15th. Again, then we'll be in the Bahamas, March 31st through April 5th. Then we're going to be in Italy in June 7th through the 14th, Greece, July 19th through the 26th, and Croatia, August 2 through 9. And as we, those are a little ways off, but not too far. Currently, they are at early bird pricing. The prices will go up as we get closer, but if you want to snag a spot early and get a better price, drop me a line, shoot me an email, hello@theawesomefactory.nyc, DM me on social, and we're going to do early bird pricing through Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving, the prices will start to go up. So anyway, that's the lineup. We're super excited to visit one of our favorite spots, the Virgin Islands and the Bahamas, and then also get over to Italy, Greece, and Croatia. Hope to have you aboard. I'm also going to share with you some takeaways from people that have been sailing with us. Here's another one. Okay, you two.
Yeah, we love this so much. We've had a busy summer of new babies and moves and driving cross country, and to have this week of just doing nothing but sitting and watching the ocean go by was, I think, part of my favorite thing. Just letting it all go and just having my soul refilled with God's glories, with the rocking of the boat. I woke up one morning and I felt like I was that cradle rocking the baby. I was in the midst of it, and I needed it as much as that baby did. It's been a glorious experience. I've loved the sailing portion, the being on the water, the being with your friends. Perhaps my favorite moment was sitting at the beach side, just barely in the water as a group, chatting as the rain fell. The water was glorious, and the company even better, and the rain soft and wonderful. If I had to say two words, I think I've done group experiences and I've had these great moments, but the Bahamas, I would have to say blessedly, I'm throwing in an adjective, blessedly blue and blustery. I've been grateful for the winds that have blown and for the blue all around.